Carrie White is one of the last to shower in her school's shared shower when her physical education teacher, Rita Desjardins, exhorts her to hurry up. Her classmates take the opportunity to make fun of her again. Suddenly, Carrie notices that blood is flowing between her legs and panics. While her classmates are disgusted, Carrie starts screaming because she thinks she has to bleed to death. Her classmates, led by Chris Hargensen, start throwing tampons and bandages at her, which Sue Snell joins. Sue, however, starts to think Carrie is having her period for the first time. Miss Desjardins comes in and tries to calm Carrie down, but since she doesn't succeed, she hits her in the face. Suddenly, a shelf with balls tips over and a light bulb bursts. Miss Desjardins takes Carrie to the office of Deputy Director Peter Morton. Mr. Morton repeatedly calls her Cassie, which annoys her even more, and there is another outbreak that sweeps an ashtray from Morton's desk. Morton and Desjardins give Carrie the rest of the day off, and she should go home. Both agree that the other girls must be punished for their actions. Carrie goes home full of hate and thinks about how she was teased on the first day of school because she dropped to her knees in the canteen to pray. Once she was in a camp and came home humiliated, whereupon her mother locked her in her closet and let her pray for forgiveness for 6 hours. Another time, a boy came riding a bike and started insulting her. Carrie stared at him angrily, and he fell off his bike. She wondered if she could do things like that, like the light bulb and the ashtray. She tried her powers on a window of a neighbor, but nothing happened. Or had the window pane vibrated slightly? Carrie is at home alone because her mother is at work. She quickly slips out of her clothes to look at herself in the mirror, but she hates what she sees in it, especially her face and her fat body. Suddenly, the mirror falls to the floor and shatters. The same evening, Sue meets up with her boyfriend, Tommy Ross. Sue now has a guilty conscience and confesses to Tommy what had happened at school. Tommy advises her to apologize to Carrie, which only made Sue angry because he is actually right about it. Meanwhile, Carrie's school had called her mother at work to tell what had happened. She is just coming home and immediately starts insulting Carrie. "You're a woman." She hits Carrie in the face and begs God for mercy because her daughter has sinned and was punished with a woman's curse. She hits Carrie several times, but Carrie yells at her mother that she should have told her about the monthly bleeding. Angry, her mother throws her into the closet where she has to spend 6 hours again. But this time, Carrie had seen fear in her mother's eyes. Carrie begins to plead, and the door to the closet begins to tremble. Carrie's mother releases her because she was afraid the door could fly off its hinges. Later, as if nothing had happened, both of them sit together and sew on the sewing machine. When the sewing machine started sewing by itself, her mother sent Carrie to her room and to bed. The next morning, Carrie is still out of school. Miss Desjardins has gathered all the guilty girls in the locker room and confronts them. Chris is not impressed by this and becomes cheeky. Miss Desjardins angrily throws Chris against a locker. Chris threatens this with her father, who is a lawyer, but Miss Desjardins is not impressed. She announces her punishment to the girls. She would have liked to have excluded everyone from the prom, but the school management believes that a week in detention is more appropriate. However, those who do not appear for detention are still excluded from the prom. Since Chris actually does not appear for detention, she receives the full sentence. Chris realizes her threat and sends her father to school director Henry Grail. Her father now demands that his daughter go to the prom and that Miss Desjardins loses her job. Otherwise, he goes to court. Grail counters and pulls Chris' school file out. "If you accuse Miss Desjardins of physical and mental abuse, we will sue your daughter for the physical and mental abuse she inflicted on Carrie White." Furious, Hargensen leaves the director's office and no charges were ever brought. In the evening, Sue meets Tommy and is introduced to his friend, Billy Nolan. Carrie is now practicing in her room and can already let her hairbrush and her heavy bed float for a short time. Sue wants to persuade Tommy to go to the prom with Carrie as a penance for her act in the shower. Tommy is amazed at first, but does not believe that Carrie accepts his invitation. He asks her anyway, but Carrie believes in a prank and tells him that she doesn't fall for such tricks. Tommy assures her several times that this is not a prank, and Carrie accepts the invitation. Carrie gains more strength and self confidence and confesses to her mother that she's been invited and agreed. She insults her as the child of the devil and wants to lock her back in the closet, but Carrie defends herself with her telekinetic power. She makes it clear that she will go to the prom and that a lot will change in this house. Meanwhile, Chris finds out that Carrie is going to prom with Tommy and calls Billy Nolan to come up with a plan. Billy and his friends break into a farm, kill 2 pigs, and fill 2 buckets with their blood. Carrie tries on her self-made dress and would like to look in the mirror, but her mirror is broken and there are no other mirrors in the house because they are prohibited. Her mother sees her in the dress and asks Carrie to burn it, but Carrie doesn't respond to her request. Her mother then beats and scratches herself until the blood flows, but Carrie uses her telekinetic power to push her out the door and slam it. Carrie no longer believes that Tommy is coming and imagines a lonely life, but the doorbell rings and Tommy is behind it. Tommy and Carrie arrive at the gym, and Carrie is thrilled with the decoration and the compliments she gets for her dress. She is slowly believing that her life will change for the better and that she will have a nice evening. Carrie's mother remembers that her grandmother also had telekinetic powers and that this curse had now fallen on Carrie. She should have killed her as a baby, but Carrie's father had prevented her from doing so. The Bible says you mustn't allow a witch to live, so she waits with a knife for Carrie's return. Carrie meets Miss Desjardins, who apologizes for her awkward manner, and Carrie is grateful for it. When she realizes that she and Tommy are up for election to the prom king, she gets doubts. In fact, both of them win the election manipulated by Chris, who is waiting with Billy behind the gym with a rope in hand. Carrie and Tommy are led to the thrones. Carrie gets self-doubt and thinks that everyone is looking at her breasts. As the band plays the school song, Chris pulls on the rope that is connected to the buckets through the window that stands on a beam above the thrones. Both buckets poured their red contents over Carrie when she was still on the throne. At first, someone cried out, but then the screaming turned into laughter. But one of the still swinging buckets falls down and hits Tommy on the head, which immediately collapses. Carrie jumps up, gets tangled up in her dress, and falls down. She gets up again to run away, but someone brings her down again. She gets up again, covers her face with hands, and runs out of the hall. The laughter subsides when it becomes clear that Tommy is dead. The doors slam shut and can no longer be opened. Through the glass panes, you can only see Carrie's smiling face. Everyone panics. Some can escape through the escape doors, but the rest die in a sea of flames. On her way home, Carrie destroys the gas stations, gas lines, tears down power cables, and destroys the hydrants to prevent the fire department from working. Carrie purposefully goes home where her mother is waiting for her. She opens the door and her mother storms at her with a knife. Her mother manages to stab Carrie in the shoulder. Carrie uses her powers and makes her mother's heartbeat slower as she prays for the last time. But Carrie's revenge is not over yet. After the prank, Billy and Chris return to his room above a bar. Billy rapes Chris, but she hardly tried to fight back. Both fell asleep afterwards. When they wake up again, they notice that the city is on fire, and both run to Billy's car, get in, and drive off. Carrie stands nearby and takes control of the car, drives it into a building, where it goes up in flames and both passengers die in the fire. Sue is now wandering randomly through the city, attracted by a pulsating force. Suddenly, she knows things about Carrie's mother, that Carrie is ravaging the city, and that she is injured, so she starts looking for her. Sue finds Carrie lying unconscious on the street, turns her around, and there is an exchange of ideas between the two. a conversation of pictures and thoughts that overwhelms Sue. Sue realizes that Carrie was only the victim because Carrie shared her experiences with her. She also let Carrie look inside, which soaks up her memories, and now understands that Sue never wanted to do anything bad to her. Sue feels Carrie's agony and feels the pain when Carrie dies. She runs away crying and starts screaming until she notices that her blood is flowing down between her legs. It takes a long time to repair the damage to the city, with 440 deaths, including 67 students. Director Henry Grail and Rita Desjardins resign as they blame themselves and believe they could have helped Carrie and prevented the disaster. Sue Snell is made guilty. She writes the book, My Name is Susan Snell, to wash her and Tommy's name in and to earn enough money to move to a place where nobody knows her. The White Commission says Carrie White is a unique phenomenon. Others insist, however, that it is very likely that there may be other telekinetically gifted and possibly dangerous children somewhere. In fact, the reader learns from such a child. 2-year-old Annie Jenks can let marbles fly, as her astonished mother has to find out.